On this episode of Bully Ball, Steph Sanchez and I will discuss, should the 49ers bring Robert Saleh home? And what exactly is wrong with the 49ers? And is Thursday the biggest game of the season? Stick around after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That is Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Following a crippling loss on Sunday. Crippling is a good word, I think. We have to discuss it. You see Steph's wearing the shirt. But first, before that, vibe check, Steph. How we doing today?
Vibe check. I mean, you literally just pointed out the shirt. This is the vibe check right now. We're in the room full of fire right now, and that room is the San Francisco 49ers. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. I got to tell you, I'm really frustrated. We're going to talk about it. But first, like you said, we got some big news this morning, right? Coming out of the East Coast. Is New York buzzing right now?
No, they're not. And I am really reserved. And I'm really starting to learn a little bit more. I mean, I thought I knew everything I knew about Jets fans being here, but they're a special kind of special. Okay. I just want to, let me I don't want to be too harsh. But Aaron Rodgers is cooked, goes out there, throws 3 interceptions in London, and the Jets look around and say, you know what? Robert Saleh's got to go, man. Why would Robert Saleh throw all those picks? Aaron Rodgers is washed, and you made them bring Nathaniel Hackett and Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. Why don't you ask what Jordy Nelson is doing? Aaron Rodgers is the problem, and it's not Robert Saleh. Perhaps Robert Saleh is not a good head coach. This is a results-driven business. Somebody's got to go. It makes sense. Somebody's head's got to roll. But it won't be Aaron Rodgers, and it won't be his little boy, ball boy, Nathaniel Hackett. It's unfortunately Robert Saleh. But it's got everyone kind of thinking, with the way that this defense has been going, is it time to bring Robert Saleh home?
Man, I got to tell you, I'm entertaining the idea. But first, I got to say this. Look, I haven't been on the fired Nick Sorensen train, right?
Correct.
Like, it's week 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not saying that the defense is absolved of any blame. Like, they certainly had a hand in the loss on Sunday, just like the offense did. But I just get mad when people act like it's just one coach, and it feels like people automatically go to fire Nick Sorensen. Mind you, this was before the Salah news. You can imagine what it is now. The second point is, I mean, we know Robert Saleh got a raw deal, as you were saying, in New York. It felt like he just never really got a chance. Like, that's crazy. You bring in a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. He gets hurt last season. Obviously, they look bad because that quarterback is hurt. And then when that quarterback is back, I'm just assuming, right, that quarterback had a hand in, this decision.
You're not assuming. You're just smart.
He has too much power. But anyway, all that being said, I think the 49ers should absolutely make a call to Salah and just see how they can stay connected, or hire Salah in a different capacity, such as a consultant. And so I'm not advocating for the 49ers to fire Nick Sorensen for Salah. I don't think that's happening, first of all. Definitely not after week 5. I've seen a lot of people run to, that solution for this team. I don't think that's the way to do it. In fact, I think it's funny how some of you guys don't see the irony of saying Salah never had a chance in New York. They treated him unfairly, while in the same breath wishing for Sorensen to be fired after 5 weeks. But I digress. And so, look, one reason I don't think it happens, at least not this season, I think Salah obviously probably going to take a break like most guys who get fired mid-season do. In fact, I think Mike Silver already reported that. He's still getting paid by the Jets. He has a family. He might get an itch for coaching, maybe come back around playoff time, join a team as a consultant. And so, like I said, that's something that if I'm the 49ers, I'd be running to get that man in the building some way, somehow. Then in the offseason, if you know that Sorensen is not your guy by then, you let him go. You give Robert Saleh a call to rejoin as defensive coordinator. Because I've always said, if the 49ers could find a defensive coordinator who was a bad head coach that nobody wants to poach from you, like, you got it made. Like, that's the jackpot. That's the dream. Like, you see the Chiefs with Spags. Look at Minnesota with Flores, Schwartz in Cleveland. Like, they got it made. Those are some of the best defensive coordinators in the league. And it would be awesome if the 49ers could have some of that. So, one step to doing that is just call Robert Saleh. I think he would be interested in returning. That is, if he doesn't get another head coaching opportunity in the offseason. But I mean, you have to make that call.
Yeah, the consultant way is the only way this works, obviously. It's just we've seen it play out too many times, and especially last year. And I'll give you an example. The Philadelphia Eagles decided to move on and bring in Matt Patricia, and that didn't help the defense anything, right? I do think that you still, for better or worse, have to see this out with Sorensen. And it would be in a consultant capacity, a la Vic Fangio, when we all thought, hey, Fangio's coming home, we're going to get him back. Now, does that work that way? I don't know, but it has to be in this capacity. By the way, Robert Saleh is under no pressure to come back. The man is going to make for the rest of the year $800 per hour just to be home with his family. I don't blame him for taking time off, especially with the way that he was handled and the things that are coming out and being in with the Jets and being tossed under the bus for the fact that he didn't draft Zach Wilson. He didn't want Aaron Rodgers. He didn't want Nathaniel Hackett. If you're not tied to the personnel and you weren't the person that was choosing them, I understand it's a results-driven business, but he's being thrown under the bus and undermined by decisions that were made over his head. And now Aaron Rodgers is playing like dog shit. He threw 3 interceptions, and then everybody looks around like, oh, it's Robert Saleh's fault. Yeah, Robert Saleh overthrew a receiver. Robert Saleh threw a pick six. His defense is fine. I'll never understand this discussion, but somebody's head had a role, and obviously you're a smart girl, Steph, and our viewers are very smart. Stop it. You know Aaron Rodgers got him fired. You know it. And there's no, I don't have to know anybody in the building. That's not inside information. It's the worst kept secret. So in that capacity, he'd have to come back in that way. But yeah, you have to stick it out with Sorensen. Now, one thing that is really interesting is Mike Silver went on KNBR and started hinting at the idea that if this 49ers game on Thursday doesn't go the way that it should with the defense, then Brandon Staley will take over. And you know what, 49ers fans, you're going to get exactly what you wanted because you hated the Brandon Staley hire. You hated it, and now you'll have your guy on a platter to blame if the defense doesn't turn around, if they do make a move like this. But I do feel that it is a little hasty, and it is kind of indicative, if true, kind of indicative of a little bit of panic setting in right now, even after 5 games. That part is more troubling than the idea of it actually happening. The idea that already after 5 games, you could even consider something like that. And that's the part that's a little bit scary. And that's just one of the issues with this 49ers team. And we're going to detail it all. We're just talking about this Robert Saleh thing. Robert Saleh can come back as a consultant. If not, that's fine. But if we're talking about Nick Sorensen being relieved of his duties for Brandon Staley, that has rarely worked. It works with offensive coordinators. You know, somebody takes over the play calling. I'll give you an example. Andy Reid early on in Kareem Hunt's first year gave over play calling duties to Matt Nagy. Funny how that sounds, right? Because Matt Nagy was a terrible, terrible head coach, but that offense flourished after it was passed over. Offensively, I feel like that's different. Defensively, schematically, I don't know if that is something that is feasible halfway through the year when you've already implemented a system with the personnel that you have to change things around. You've seen it happen last year with Matt Patricia. I would think that that is something maybe Nick Sorensen is not the guy for the job. Just maybe, right? But it would be a panic move and something that could cause even more problems because you can't hit the ground running one week after Staley takes over to kind of make this move, and it feels like a panic move.
I need people to think a little more critically about these issues, including the 49ers, if they're actually thinking about moving on from Sorensen after just 5-6 weeks. There's a lot wrong with this team right now, and only maybe even half of it has to do with the defense. I need everyone, including Kyle Shanahan, to look in the mirror and see what needs to change in a lot of facets of this team, because there's no excuses as to what's going on. I know everyone called Steve Wilks the scapegoat. If you fire Nick Sorensen after 6 weeks, like, I'm sorry, like I can't help but think like he'd be a scapegoat, right? Like, so everyone's got to have a hard look at themselves and see what they want this team to be and right the ship, you know?
Yeah.
Because I agree, like that would be an overreaction and one that would hardly ever end well for the team that does it. So be careful. But I can't help but think at the same time that part of the reason they brought Brandon Staley in was a hedge, right? Like everyone said that. So like now we're at this point where, you could play that card. But yeah, I don't like it. Doesn't give me a good feeling.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Greg says, enough of this. Hire Salah. It's not up to us, man. If it were up to me, I'd do what you guys would want. I just don't think it's gonna happen. So yeah, with the defense, I think let's just get into it. Okay. The issue is a lot of things, right? The secondary is especially troubling through 5 weeks, and I'm gonna explain why. Our safeties can't tackle. Talanoa Hufanga is consistently out of position when he plays. Jair Brown is still taking poor angles. Diamador Lenore is the best corner on this team. Not a bad thing, but Mooney Ward is playing what, quote unquote, he said, the worst ball of his career, and I'm not going to argue with him. Isaac Yiadom allowed one catch on Sunday, and it was that Marvin Harrison play where it was just like zero blitz. Kyler threw up a prayer to a spot. It got there, but Isaac Yiadom didn't allow a catch. Malik Mustafa didn't allow one catch at all. 2 missed tackles. And Ward is injured because yesterday's participation report, even though the team was off, is he would have not practiced. Now, my problem is when we went into this season, we looked at this secondary and said, oh my God, this is the strength. We've got something now that we can lead to coverage sacks. It's not happening. So I think my biggest concern with Sorensen is less the defensive line, is the way they're putting people in position. Charvarius Ward should not be 30 yards away from people that he's trying to cover. I don't understand that. It's an easy turn at 9 yards, catch the ball, and gain a few yards. Demo's a dog. But everything else just seems to be off and out of place in the secondary. And it all starts with Mooney. Is Mooney banged up? Sounds like it. Does Mooney have to play better? For sure. The fact that we can't set our watch to Charvarius Ward in the secondary this season is far more troubling through 5 weeks than almost anything on the defense, right? Because, yes, Devondre Campbell is a target. The safeties are a target. Go after them. Make them come up and tackle. Prey on their aggression and run right past them. How many times does this team have to see a zone read before they figure out how to stop it? The zone read happens and it looks like they have no idea, like they've never seen it. Hufanga's spinning his head around and Kyler Murray's already pointing to the end zone before he leaves the line. When does the secondary step up? And my question is this. Hufanga, all pro, fine. Everybody loves him. He's injured. That's fine. But you know what? If we're going to have a guy who's going to miss tackles and be out of position, then play Malik Mustafa. If we're going to have a guy that's getting picked on and a target at linebacker, play D. Winters. Because I can live with the bumps and bruises for a rookie getting reps. I cannot live with veterans who don't know what the hell they're doing. I can't live with that. That I can't live with. A rookie going through the bumps and bruises is one thing. But veterans who don't know what they're doing and they look like this is their first time ever seeing an NFL offense, I cannot live with that. Give me the rooks, play the rooks, and I'll live with the bumps and bruises with the rooks. Sorry.
That's what I've been saying for a couple of weeks now with the defense, because it's like if these younger players are just as capable of making the same mistakes as these veterans, then why not? At least I know that if a younger player is out there, he's learning and he has the chance at, increasing his ceiling in the process, right? But yeah, veterans are who they are largely. And yeah, I mean, it's so weird what's happening with the defense because look, I think some of us at least are continuing to give Nick Sorensen some grace, some time to figure it out. there's also a point where it's on the players to execute, and we're not seeing the execution. Like, you have James Conner right in front of you. Wrap up. Wrap up. Get him down. Like, I saw so many times, like, defenders right in his face. Get his ass. Like, what are we even doing here? And then just the amount of missed tackles that they had in this game, what I believe it was like 12.
That feels low.
That feels low, right? Felt more like 17 plus or something like that in the second half alone.
And if you and missed tackles means that you were in position. What about the plays where guys are just spinning around, not knowing where they are, and there's a wide open gap? Like, missed tackles are you were actually there. You can't get a missed tackle if you're not in position at all.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing from this team, and everyone's been talking about it, right? They can't finish. Like, that's kind of the theme of this team so far from like the start of the season. There were even times in the game against the Patriots where it kind of felt like, oh God, like, are you really trying to give this game? Luckily, the Patriots are allergic to scoring and working down the field. Otherwise, if it was a better team, like, I'd probably been a little more concerned in that game. And the 49ers were able to put that one away. But you see, against the Rams, against the Cardinals, they weren't able to do that. And it's not just the defense that's not able to finish. We're seeing it on the granular level of, like, on the defensive side, missed tackles. On the offense, we're seeing it in the red zone. You have a really good drive. You're getting into the red zone more than any other team in the league, and yet you can't finish in the red zone. You can't get points up. So as a whole, like, this team has an issue with finishing, and I don't want to hear that it's an identity issue. That feels like a cop-out. I don't want to hear about the Heat. That feels like a cop-out. I don't want to hear, oh, it's because we don't have Christian McCaffrey. That's a cop-out. I don't want to hear it's because, oh, Nick Sorensen and we can't adjust. That's a cop-out. At the end of the day, you're all grown men too, and you have some control in this as well. And I'm just not seeing that want. Like, the opposing team right now wants it more than the Niners do every time that these two teams step on the field. And so we're seeing the bullies get bullied, and suddenly they don't know how to fight back. Oh, I mean, I'm like appalled by this entire team right now. And I don't know what it is, because, like, you could point at it being like a scheme issue, but then, like, Nick Sorensen has to change something, right? And then, like I said, we could point at it being an execution issue. Then why do these players look lost? So maybe it's a combination of both. But yeah, something has to change.
Okay. 5 weeks is a large enough sample size to know who teams are, right? Or where they're trending. Let me give you the San Francisco 49ers of 2024. They're a team that can't finish in the red zone. They're a team that can't finish on defense, and they don't have a closer. They're a team that special teams is especially terrible. The only team that's been in the red zone more than the San Francisco 49ers is the Washington Commanders, and they are 30th in the NFL in red zone efficiency. This has nothing to do with Jake Moody being injured. Let me tell you why. Jake Moody being available only further masks the issue at hand. Yes, it would be real nice if you had a guy who could kick field goals. You probably win this game if Jake Moody's there. But it doesn't change the issue. It does not change the issue with the red zone. Okay, Christian McCaffrey's not here. And we understand. Christian McCaffrey's incredible. All-world offensive player of the year. Felt like whenever we got into the red zone, it's a touchdown. Put the ball in 23's belly. He's got it. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk is a core of star players that any team would love to have. You telling me that's not enough? You telling me that's not enough to execute? You telling me that there's teams out there that are running guys out there who should be on practice squads for their team that wouldn't even kill to have Brandon Ayuk, who wouldn't even kill to have one of those guys, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle? You telling me you can't figure it out? One other common theme: turnovers. Look, I don't care how the turnovers happen. There's context to why turnovers happen. Here's the real large part. The turnovers are happening. And they're happening at the worst time. Jordan Mason, you got to get down. Get down. You can't allow that to happen. In the red zone, they're targeting George Kittle a lot. In this game, didn't work out. Juwan Jennings, nothing. Deebo Samuel, 4 touches. 4 touches. 4. Brandon Ayuk has the best game of the season. Breaks out. Wasted. Jake Moody not being there probably cost the 49ers this game because they would have to change their strategy on 4th down, but it doesn't mask the big issue about the red zone. It does not mask the issue at hand. The 49ers have gone from first to worst in the red zone. And that's not my opinion. That's not me overreacting. That is an objective fact. And if that objective fact bothers you and you believe that people are overreacting, I suggest you go outside and touch some grass. Jason says, just got here. Short answer to the video title. Yes, a loss means we can only finish 500 in division at best, and that won't cut it. I agree. I think we have another one. Dazzle says, I said to you guys after week 1 that it was disconcerting that they weren't scoring in the red zone and kicking field goals. You're right. The team looks old, slow, and disinterested. Super Bowl loss hit them hard, players and coaches.
Disinterested. That's
and
a good word.
Right. And then to talk about effort, right? When we talk about, well, it's on the players to execute and effort. That's you, Kyle Shanahan. That's you, Nick Sorensen.
Yeah.
Because when the team's locked in, everybody praises the coach. When the team is lackluster with their effort, giving up, getting beat, not in right position, you got to look at the guy who puts them in those positions. Kyle doesn't have to go anywhere, but we're not just going to sit here and look over the fact that at times this team is not executing. This team is not in the right state of mind. It looks like this team looks, as Dazza says, disinterested. Where does that go? It goes to the top, and it starts at the top. You have to prepare them during the week. You have to keep them interested during the game. You have to help them execute. I have a tough time with players' lack of effort because whatever, that's fine. Some people are built like that. Some people aren't. Someone has to do something about that, and that's the head coach. If Devondre Campbell looks disinterested and he's getting out there cooked, then put D. Winters in. If guys are not executing, then you send a message to everybody. Sit down. Get out the way. Someone else step up. Here's your moment. Jason says, anyone suggesting Salah replace Kyle is high? I don't think they were saying that. We have 24 Super Bowls since 2000. Only 3 or 4 defensive coaches have won the trophy. I think what they're saying is they want Salah to replace Sorensen. But I'm a big Kyle believer, big Kyle defender. Everyone knows that. Love Kyle Shanahan. If your team is not executing, if your team is losing their effort, if your team is lackadaisical, that's on you. Point blank.
I think that's why we get so upset, right? Because we know what this team is capable of. Largely the same team that they had last year, and you still can't make it work with that. And yes, we like Kyle Shanahan. We know he's the 49ers' best shot at getting to the Super Bowl. That's why we're frustrated. That's why I'm frustrated. And I hate this, they've been here before. Players do it too. Players talk about this. We've been here before. We've been through worse. In 2021, they started 3-5. 2022, 4-6. They're 2-3 so far this season. So that's normal, right? That we're just gonna accept that that's normal. That's my problem. I don't want this to be normalized. And 49ers fortunate enough to be in the worst division in all of football right now. Mm-hmm. You get the win Thursday. You're at the top of the division. Mm-hmm. But here's why things are different so far this year and why I'm not feeling good about it. In the past, we've at least won games in our division, even when we've had these slow starts. 49ers usually sweep the Cardinals, usually even sweep the Rams. Right now, they're 0-2 in the NFC West, 0-3 in the conference. Their playoff seeding right now would be 14th in the NFC. And you thought this first quarter of the season was the easy part? you know it's only going to get harder. One of the toughest remaining strength of schedules. Seahawks do as well. Cardinals, Rams, their schedules get easier from here on out. But my point is this. If you can lose against not one, but two bad teams in a span of 3 weeks, that's not just a fluke. You are the bad team. Because if you can lose to the Rams and the Cardinals, you can lose against anybody. So excuse me if I don't buy they've done it before, so they'll do it again. I need to see it first, all right? And not against the Patriots. See it against a real team. And by the way,
go ahead.
Just this last point.
Yeah, you got it.
Because I'm tired of being called like over dramatic for the way that I feel about this team right now, because we have every right to be frustrated when this team underperforms. And I'm not about to be gaslit into thinking I don't. Like, what's even the point of being a fan if I can't be, a little dramatic every once in a while, right? Like, what's the fun in that? But, I think what me and Jay are saying is like, it's unacceptable what the 49ers are doing right now. Yes, they've gotten out of this in the past, but that doesn't make it okay.
What's funny is after the Patriots game, I said I didn't learn anything about the 49ers. I knew the 49ers were better than the Patriots. And people push back. That's not how the NFL works. No. I know for a fact that the 49ers are better than the Patriots. I didn't need to see them whip the Patriots for me to learn that. I haven't learned anything about this team. Nothing. I mean, what I've learned isn't good. What I'll say is this. The early part of the schedule was for you to fix everything. You could have still won all these games when you were playing this way. You could have still won all these games, still fixing things. And we still would have walked onto the show, looked each other in the face and said, hey, there's issues and you got to clean this up. But you have wins. Wins mask everything. It's the best deodorant. But you kicked away games that you should have had. And now Seattle, Kansas City, Dallas, bye week, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Buffalo. It makes you now into this is an absolute must-win game on Thursday. Your season feels like it's on the line, and you have to start playing. It has to click. You have 4 or 5 days after this loss to get it right. That's maybe a good thing. They don't have time to stew. They don't have time to sit around. But the fact that we're talking about this game with the Seahawks as a must-win is indicative of exactly where they were. And that's the part that is a little scary. Because you could have still won these games. You could be 4-1, and we could still say, hey, they got trouble in the red zone. Hey, they got defensive problems in the secondary. We could say all those things. But when they don't come with a win, now your season starts to get dire. And now you have to turn it on. And a little bit to Steph's point about, well, the 49ers have been there. Yes, they have. It's nice that you're battle tested. That's cool. You've been through some bad things. Okay. But if you keep on every single year trying to go back and say, point to history and say, this is why, this is why. History is a good indicator of the future. But banking on something that season to season lacks context about why it happened and saying, oh, we can just do it again, especially staring this schedule in the face, feels copium. Feels like copium. It does.
Period.
I don't like that either. I don't care what happened in 2021. Sure, it's nice to know that you've dug yourself out of those holes. But relying on history to now keep yourself somehow like confident. It's copium. It's pure copium. Let's get to the last super chat that we had up. We didn't get a chance to read it. I'm sorry, Rob. Daz, the players are just not showing effort. They're starting to throw shade at the coaches. Listen to Bosa and to an extent Purdy postgame. Yeah, I don't know. Him saying, we need to adjust. This kind of feels like last year when they were saying that about Wilkes. Like we're not in position, right? Like all those things. I think there is a frustration that's building. And it's building for the guys that realize that this group is in probably its last chance to really get this done. I understand their frustration. I do. And it's and one other thing I don't like, I love Demo Lenore. He's clearly the best secondary member. Arizona lucked up and got one. Nah, man.
How about what he said after the Rams game too? A trash can gets a steak every now.
Nah, man.
Like, I don't care.
Man. Nah,
I don't
man.
care. And he's
Nah,
been,
man.
like you said, he's been hooping, he's been balling, he's been
Yep.
great. He
Yep.
definitely has not been the problem. But you're
No.
on a team, and I don't care to know how you feel about yourself, and I don't care to know that you feel like the other team lucked up.
Yeah. I
Like
don't
they
like that
were
either.
like James Conner literally ran over your
They
defense in the
they
second half.
beat you, they beat your ass and they outwilled you at the end, right? Everyone in the stadium knew they were gonna run the football, and you still couldn't stop it. And I don't want to hear it
Bad look.
about the Heat. I don't want to hear it about the Heat. That's another excuse. Let me tell you something. In 2019, the 49ers played in Tampa Bay week 1. Remember what is it? Two pick sixes that Jameis Winston threw? I went to that game. There's no shade in that stadium. It was 3 million degrees in Tampa, right? You are professional football players. I don't want to hear it about Heat. Nut up. Pull your pants up. You're gassed. Arizona is used to it too, but they had to play the same amount as you. And their defense was on the field way longer than you because you had more plays than them. So the Heat's not an excuse. All this to say this. Ultimately, I believe the San Francisco 49ers make the playoffs still. Yep, you heard it here. You heard it here right. Okay? I think they're far too talented. They are far too experienced to allow this season to just spiral, especially considering they're really just missing Christian McCaffrey and Dre Greenlaw. I'm not saying like, oh, just that. I'm just saying you've got Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. You should be fine on offense, right? You should be able to finish, right? You know how many teams would kill for those guys? But the 49ers aren't exactly like a Dre Greenlaw away on defense. It's everything else. The secondary is not playing well. The defensive line is not getting there when they need to. They're making undisciplined moves, right? Sammy O hitting Kyler Murray on the head to give them a 2-point conversion. Little stuff like that. It all adds up to a loss. But the 49ers are one game away from making the playoffs and being in first place. Now, the problem with that is Chiefs, Cowboys, bye week, Bucks, the rest of the schedule. You essentially right now have to get into this bye week at worst 4-4. At worst 4-4. That feels like a win. 4-4. But if you can get in at 5-3 somehow, if you can win these next 3, boy, does that change the trajectory of everything because now you've got possible reinforcements, John Feliciano, Christian McCaffrey, maybe Dre Greenlaw eventually, right? This stretch is the most critical stretch of football for the 49ers, and we're going to find out right before this bye week whether the 49ers are like that or the season's spiraling. I think we have another super chat. Let's get to it. Tony says, I just want to mention how the final Brock INT play reminded me of the NFC title games when Brock tore his arm, Gannon, DC then too. Yeah, look, and I guess this is a perfect segue into talking about Brock. Brock admitted that he was locked on a little bit too much to Brandon Ayuk. He should have got the ball to George Kittle right away and hit him because that's a chunk play. He would have literally run up the field and had them in a good spot. And Kyle admitted the same thing as well too. I don't think Brock Purdy played his worst game, but I don't think he played his best. And I think we love the running around, and everything because it's exciting. I would like to see Brock to get back to basics and kind of go back to getting the ball out on time, being on time with this offense, getting the ball out, stepping up, throwing it before all that happens, because there was clean pockets that he's kind of just running around in. And I don't know if that's because he's seen success doing it, but he's getting away from what made him special in this offense. And I think that's the part that I have a little bit of issue with in this game. It's just get back to basics, reel it in, just a little bit more, reel it in, and let's go back to what made this offense tough to defend, yak, all that type of stuff, quick throws, making sure the offense is on time. We love it when he runs around, but please, I need you to get back to basics, and I think that would help this offense a lot stay on schedule.
Yeah, we've praised Brock for the last couple of weeks now about how he's extending plays and all this stuff. But I think we knew at the same time, there's a very thin line between doing that out of necessity and then just kind of going a little overboard with it. And, we're kind of seeing how he's kind of become a little overboard with it and no longer doing it out of necessity. And like you said, he's leaving clean pockets. In turn, he's creating pressures for himself. Like, I want people to understand that the offensive line has been fine. And sometimes when Brock Purdy escapes a clean pocket, it will create a pressure. Like, I need people to understand that, because I'm still seeing people say, like, offensive line sucks, all that. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. We could talk about that final interception play where, they're coming in 6-on-6, right? And couldn't get the right protection on that one. So they're definitely not perfect, like we've been saying. But I mean, yeah, Brock Purdy definitely had a hand in that loss. It was just a little sloppy and careless on his part, I think. He's been looking for, I think, the deep play a little too much. I've always appreciated that he looks downfield first. But I think in the situation, well, I don't know. It's the last play wasn't a blitz, so, but knowing that you had pressure, or I guess it was a blitz, but Jordan Mason was there, so you had 6-on-6. I just thought he should have gone to the hot
Ball's
read.
got to get out faster. Yeah, it's right there.
It was Kittle.
And that's the play. The play was designed for Kittle, right? And Kyle said that.
Yeah.
He
locked structure.
on. Right, he locked on to Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, that's good, but once you see that you don't have it, the play's there. You already know. So the ball's got to be out, right? And Kittle might be still running if he's hit with this, right? And then we're talking about something completely different. But it's little stuff like that that is escaping this team in all facets. Little things. The little stuff that all adds up eventually to a loss. That's how you lose a football game. The 49ers earned that L. Oh, baby. If there was ever a game that they absolutely worked hard to lose, it was that one. They earned that one. Dazzler says Brock trying to justify $60 million. He's holding the ball too long. Even Brady called out the 11-second play, which resulted in the sack.
Dude, that one was the most egregious. That was the most egregious of the day. That was the most egregious of the day. And knowing, like, situational awareness, right? Like, you're saying you can't take the sack there, not just because you're in the red zone, but you don't have a kicker, and you lose 9 yards on that. You have to try to then convert a 4th and 23. Like, it did not have to get to that point. It did not. Like, you could just chip away at that. But that just made it so much more worse. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Shanahan chewed out Brock Purdy, like, after this game, for a couple of things that he did. And hopefully we see better play from him, this week against Seattle. Definitely an opportunity to get some things right on the offensive side. Because, like we've been saying, like, there's no excuses as to why this offense shouldn't be putting up points. You're getting in the red zone. Finish. You have the guys to do it. I don't care. Christian McCaffrey isn't there. You should still be able to finish. So, you know what I find concerning, Jay, is that through the first 5 weeks of the season, on 2 separate occasions now, maybe even 3 at this point, we've seen different players say defenses just know what we do, and they're scheming us up. They know what we want to do. That's an issue. And what adjustments need to come from that. And that's part of the reason why, like, I think, again, like, Kyle needs to make some adjustments on the offensive side. Why, if defenses know what you want to do, you need to switch something up. I mean, I don't know what it is, but that's you, Kyle. Like, you're the genius. Like, you figure that out. But that's something that's really troubling to me so far through the first couple weeks of the season.
You know what's troubling? And I wonder if I said it on here, but I feel like I was saying it during the Patriots week, because I felt like there's a way that people are going to start to want to attack the 49ers. Oh dear, the 6-1 penny fronts are back. And when I first saw it coming back this season was the Eagles-Saints game. And Fangio got the 6 down linemen and the one, and the idea of penny fronts is 6 down linemen to stop the outside zone. Turn everything back in. If you want to run the football outside, and again, that was against the Saints and Clint Kubiak. How do you loosen that up? You got to throw the football. And that's the chicken and the egg, right? And I was wondering when it was going to start coming back. I thought maybe Jared Mayo would stick a little bit, steal a little bit from, because remember, if you guys remember how this came across, during the year that the Rams played the Patriots in the Super Bowl, Vic Fangio was the Bears, I guess, D coordinator, or he could have been their head coach. I can't remember. But he started running that against Los Angeles, the 6-1. And it worked for a little bit. And then Bill took it in the Super Bowl and held that Rams offense to 3 points and made Jared Goff make the throws. And Arizona was running that on defense. And I wonder if other teams that are equipped with their personnel, because a lot of what Arizona was running was 5-2-4, meaning they had one down lineman and they had 4 edge guys and 2 linebackers, 4 in the secondary. And they were fine with that with Jonathan Gannon. But copycat, little stuff. And I saw it popping back up, and I wonder if better teams with better personnel are going to force Brock into that. The way you beat it is this. If there's 6 and then there's 1, that means there's one-on-one everywhere. So you look to your X, throw the football out of that, and lighten that box back up. Then you can run the football again. But until you do, we're going to sit here in 6-1, and we're going to make sure that we keep all that outside zone inside. You need to throw the football to your X. The 49ers got away from that. Ayuk was crushing. Got away from that. Because this secondary was ripe for the picking. Anybody who called this as a breakout game for Ayuk, you knew it was coming because the Cardinals are terrible on pass defense. But I wonder, are the seeds being planted for slowing down this offense? And the real answer to beating 6-1 is throwing the football and throwing it one-on-one and making sure, and it's going to be tight windows. You have to be able to stretch the defense back out. You cannot allow them to sit up there in that 6-1. And I saw that a little bit in Arizona. So, Steph, look, bottom line, there's a lot of things the 49ers need to clean up. If they were winning games, we still would be saying the same things. We just wouldn't be as angry. We would still be saying the same exact things. They just wouldn't have the W's. But it would be disingenuous to sit here and say, yeah, well, they've done it before. Let's do it again. I don't like the circumstances this time. Do I believe there's a team that can dig themselves out of it? Yes, it would probably be this team. But I'm not locking on to history as the way to hope that this team is doing it. So let's talk about Thursday Night Football, okay? Because this is a must-win. It's a must-win. Absolute must-win. I don't want to hear it. And I hate it because it shouldn't be this way. Must-win. Let's talk about something that's really dope. We are literally about to witness the greatest jersey matchup in the history of the NFL. Oh, baby, look at that. Wow. Look, the football might be bad. The football might be bad, but the jerseys are going to be aesthetically pleasing. Look at that. Oh, my God. The only other jersey matchup I think that would be better than this or possibly in there is if the 49ers wear the white and Tampa Bay wears the creamsicles. That would be insane. But this right here, 80s Seahawks, 90s Niners, 2 cleanest jerseys, best jersey matchup in the history of the NFL. And Steph, stop trolling me on Twitter, okay?
Yeah, I said, are you sure it's not the color rush 49ers Rams? You remember that one?
Ooh.
2007?
Yeah. Ooh.
Was it 2007 or 17?
It was 20, with the All Blacks?
Yeah, all blacks, and then the Rams are wearing like mustard yellow, all yellow. Disgusting.
I mean, obviously, we're just being funny talking about this right now. There's a lot to talk about in this game. There's a lot to talk about this. Obviously, we're just look, guys, because look, we're all frustrated, we're all upset, but at the end of the day, it's still football. So let's have some fun. Still, I know we're not having a good time, but let's chill out. Let's chill out.
Yes, we are down so bad. We're talking about jerseys.
Relax. It's a joke. My God. All right. Good God, guys. Hey, look, it's okay. The 49ers are struggling. It's all right. Life goes on. We'll be all right. But here we go. Secondary right here is already going to be the biggest issue. And this is what I'm worried about. Mooney Ward has to play in this game. You're thinking about DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jiba, and Tyler Lockett. Now, the New York Giants did a very good job. The New York Giants did a very good job this past week. But this secondary is going to be tested probably worse than they have by any wide receiver core. Meaning, let's see. Patriots had nobody, Rams in that. This is going to be their biggest test. And that's the thing with this short week is you trying to figure out how to bring this secondary back to level. And now you run out of time to experiment. Because you did it against the Patriots. You know what I find funny? With the Patriots, they were like, well, they're not really that tough, so we can run Renardo Green out there. But then when you get to the Cardinals, you're like, no. We got to get Yadam back out there because we don't trust that. Because you can mess around with the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
You can mess around with them and experiment. The time for experimenting is over. And the trio and Geno Smith is going to present the hardest challenge for the 49ers. And they're throwing the shit out of the football right now with Geno Smith.
If the 49ers maybe won more of these games in the first 5 weeks, maybe they could have afforded the luxury of being able to experiment, in week 6. But yeah, I mean, this being a must-win game, like you kind of got to keep it tight and you got to stick with, I guess, what you have. So we'll probably continue to see Yadam out there. But if something goes awry in this game, if there's like a big miscommunication that leads to a touchdown or something like that, just something egregious, it wouldn't shock me if we see some desperation moves mid-game in this one. But yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks, they're looking different, of course. Mike Macdonald has done some nice things, but they're also hurting with a number of different injuries right now. I know their edge rusher Nwosu is going to be out for this game. He suffered he suffered an injury against the Giants, so that's a tough break for them.
They just throw him on IR. Yep.
Could be a good thing for the 49ers. Now, kind of not to go back to the Cardinals, but the one thing I was concerned of what you were talking about, Jay, is like a bad Cardinals defense could make the 49ers offense look bad just by doing the 6-1 front and kind of knowing what the 49ers want to do. That's my concern. That's why we need to see adjustments from Brock Purdy, from Kyle Shanahan. How are you going to counter what defenses are doing against you? Because I can almost bet the Seahawks are going to try to do the same stuff. Like, yeah, Mike Macdonald has an identity with this defense and what they like to do. But I think so far we've seen teams willing to throw that out the window to play the 49ers in a way that matches best with what the 49ers like to do. Because everyone knows what the 49ers like to do at this point, especially without Christian McCaffrey. It's just a little bit easier to stop. So, defenses are going to key in on that. So that's the concern for me. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, the 49ers defense, on the other hand, have to be on their P's and Q's. My concern is that Mooney Ward has been dealing with an injury. We've seen him, shadow Metcalf in the past. But if he's not 100%, that I don't know if I like that plan, right? Like if like what we're seeing and he's guarding guys like 30 yards off the line, that's not good. But I feel like they're having him do that to kind of keep everything in front of him and protect him so he doesn't get blown past, right? He doesn't get toast. But I don't know. So I don't know what they're gonna do in this game with some of the offensive weapons that the Seahawks have right now, because like they always do, different coach, but I think they always try to test the waters with the 49ers and they try to find a big play at some point in the game. I mean, why not? You have DK Metcalf, right? You're going to go deep. That's where I'm concerned about this 49ers defense. We talk about the safety plays so far. We talk about guys looking lost. Oh, God, for the love of God, please know what you're doing out there against the Seahawks team on Thursday. Look, if this team needed to have a back against the wall moment, if they needed to feel like, I don't know, like they need to turn their season around in desperation mode, if that's what they prefer, okay. I mean, you got it right in front of you on Thursday, I guess. But if you can't do it then, I don't have much hope for the rest of this season. I got to be honest with you. But it's a good opportunity for sure. So hopefully we see the 49ers at their best, or at least very much improved in the meantime.
Yeah, the wounded animal. And if there's ever a team that could possibly be the wounded animal that's right there, like on the and can fight through it, it's them. If I was going to bet that any team could, it would be the 49ers. I don't like the idea of, they will. And that's the part.
Yeah.
I think the way that you stop this game from getting out of control, and obviously this is an oversimplification. It's going to sound like, football for dummies, but I think the 49ers have to win the toss, get the ball first, and you've got to shut that crowd up immediately. You've got to shut them up immediately with your scripted plays. You've got to go down the field and score a touchdown. Shut them up immediately. Don't let them start to get this ball rolling, and don't let them get into a position where they feel like they can fight in this game. The reason that you've lost to lesser teams is leaving them hanging around. Both of these games that they've lost to the Rams and Cardinals have felt like they were on the cusp of being a blowout for the 49ers. And as soon as one thing goes the other way, then it all comes apart. You cannot allow that to happen. Whatever this game plan is going into this game, the first 20 plays that are scripted have to absolutely go down the field and score a touchdown and shut them up. You have to shut them up right away and put them in a position where they feel like they have to fight back. You cannot put yourself in a position where you're behind in this game. You cannot put yourself in a position where you're struggling trying to figure things out. This game plan coming out offensively has to hit the nail on the head. I know that's an oversimplification. I know that everybody would say, well, whatever, that's ABC, stuff. It is. But in this game, they have to start off the rip. We're no longer a defensive first team. Offense needs to step up. 16 offensive points against the Cards. Defense isn't good enough. If I would have told you, and Kyle Juszczyk, you stole my line, buddy. If I would have told you the 49ers were going to get a block kick for a touchdown, you would have said, how much did they win by? But the 49ers had 16 offensive points. 16. Can't happen. And again, Jake Moody might have added on to that. Yeah, maybe the 49ers would have walked away, but it still masked the issue with the red zone. And that's the issue. 49ers have to start fast. They have to play fast. And they can't allow that crowd to get into it. They cannot afford to get behind, because I fear that's not the way that you're going to win this game. And regardless, and again, after what we saw last week with Arizona, I'm going to repeat what I said before that game right here. I don't care that the Seattle Seahawks lost to the New York Giants. I don't care. You know why? Because they're going to be absolutely ready to go in this game. The same way Arizona got its doors blown off by Washington, and they were ready to go.
And the Rams got blown out the week before, right, too.
I don't want to hear it. I don't care what the New York Giants did. The Seattle Seahawks are going to be ready to go on Thursday. Throw the last week out. Throw it out. Be damned. You can laugh all you want to say Daniel Jones cooked them and, I'm not. Fine. That was last week. This is this week. They know what's going on. They know how this game goes. Divisional game. Expect Seattle to be ready. Don't give me what happened last week. I don't care, because it does not matter this week. Last week has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. None of it. Throw it out. Steph, I think the 49ers are going to be fine, okay? I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to win this game on Thursday. I mean, I'm not ready to abandon ship, but it would be really, really hard for me to not point out the things that are painfully obvious that everybody else sees with this team, with special teams and defense and the way they can't finish in the red zone, and sometimes coaching.
I think they'll win because they have to. That's it. And then I want them to be able to win 2 games in a row. Can we do that? Can we do that this season? Or every time after a win, we're going to, run back to losing, and then, the world's on fire kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, the 49ers said, we can't wait to get to Thursday. Get this loss.
That might be the best thing
out of our mouth. It's great, but they're not the only team that's feeling that way. We're just talking about the Seahawks in the same situation. They know that if they lose this game, they're not first place in the NFC. So you're competing against a team, like we've been saying, that wants it just as bad or more than you do. So you better rise to the occasion. Something that one of my viewers commented in one of my live chats was opponents are dictating the game, how the game is played. I wouldn't say that for these games where the 49ers start off hot. That's true, but by the end of it definitely feels that way, right? Mm-hmm. That the opponent just kind of takes control of the game. You just simply cannot let that happen. So what Jay is saying, and you gotta score fast, and you gotta keep your foot on their necks. Yes, do that, and all this stuff about identity. I mean, like I said, I do feel like that's a cop out. But if you feel like you need an identity fucking find it in this game, please. If you find it in Seattle, like if you're not gonna find it in this game and you can't dig deep in this one, like I don't even know what to tell you. So like I think again from the talent perspective, they could do it. There's no reason they couldn't and they shouldn't. But I need to see it first, Jay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, if there's any team that's equipped to do it, it's them. But we haven't seen it. We still haven't seen them put together a 60-minute game yet. And even without having 60-minute games, we still all agree that they should be 4-1 at least. I think the one game that I know for a fact that they have no business winning is the Minnesota game. Because without Aaron Jones fumbling at the 1-yard line, that game gets completely out of hand. And Minnesota runs them. But every other game, you can look yourself in the face and say, we had it. We had a chance to win. Now, does that make you feel better? I'll give you this. Here's your silver lining. I'll give you this. Only one team has really run the 49ers out the building, and even then, the game was a little bit close, and that's Minnesota. Until I start to see them get boat raced the entire way by a team that they have no business being on the field with, then I'll really start to panic. But everything that you see in front of this team is fixable. Now, does that give you comfort? Because you're like, why is it taking so long to fix? I understand that. Completely get that. But everything's fixable, and it's little stuff. So for me, until I see them absolutely get, like, throttled, like where you're like, they don't even belong in the same field as this team, then I'll start to lose it a little bit. So I think for that's the silver lining. That's the part that I keep looking at, right? Like Tony says, the Ravens game last year. It feels like that could have been, the game where you're just like, damn, dude, you might not be on that level. You might not be on that level. But Minnesota was Aaron Jones interception, a Sam Darnold interception, and Aaron Jones fumble from boat racing the 49ers, getting them off the field like completely. That's the only time I've ever seen them really overmatched. And even then, that game got close. But everything is fixable. Everything's fixable, and it's right there. And if anybody's equipped to fix it, it's the 49ers. I still believe, guys. I'm not here to dwell. Move on. Let's move on. Let's get to Thursday. I'm glad that this game is Thursday. I'm glad that you guys are pissed. If you're pissed, show us. If you're the team that we think you are, show us. Because it's put up or shut up. Thursday is an absolute must-win game. No question about it. You can't go 0-3 in this division. You have to do it Thursday. Not next week. Because if they don't win on Thursday, you're not gonna sell me on, they're gonna go get the Chiefs. You're not selling me on that one.
All right.
We're not doing that.
It's emergency, please. It's emergency. Right. Just a little. It's
Thursday.
like, yeah, as long as we make the playoffs, like we can get to the Super Bowl. Guys, you gotta make the playoffs first.
Playoffs.
So you'd need to win some of these games.
I just want to win a game. Playoffs. Don't talk to me about playoffs. All right. Almost an hour in. Thank you guys for joining us. This is another episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to this video and the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Bully Ball Podcast and the Gold Standard Podcast Network, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at JasonAponte2103. We both have YouTube channels. You might want to give us a quick look and everything as well, too. But 49ers got to get it done. Must win on Thursday. Absolute. You heard it here first. No panic, no hyperbole. That's just the facts. For Steph, for Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.